My name is Kevin Rutherford. I'm here to talk about life through my life. Welcome to the Accelerate Through Life podcast. Let's go. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Today we're going to talk about buying a house and what that looks like in 2024. This is probably one of the topics that I feel the most knowledgeable on. Over the last 8 years, we've had several privileges to help people buy homes, whether it be their first home, their last home, or anything in between. And honestly, I think about how much has changed through the buyer's eyes since that time, since the time I first helped somebody buy a house in 2016 to the time that people are buying houses with the Rutherford Team in 2024. So I'm going to kind of talk about those changes and then everything that you need to know about buying a house in 2024. First and foremost, I want you to hear my energy and that I'm excited for people buying a house in 2024. I am excited for first-time home buyers, right? I believe the opportunities that are out there right now won't last. And I'll kind of go ahead and just dive right into that. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that, one of the things that we always hear pushback on is rates. Boy, have you seen these interest rates? How could anybody be happy with buying a house at these interest rates? What are interest rates at right now? They are at 7%. And I want to tell you that perspective is everything. Perspective is everything. And why do I say that? Because 7% is actually below the national average over the last 50 years. If you went and add up all the interest rate averages over the last 50 years, and you took the average, 7% is lower than that average. The other thing that I want to talk about is that my personal opinion, I don't foresee you being able to get a cheaper payment, right? There's a lot of different talks about what the economy is going to do, what the housing market's going to do, et cetera, et cetera. Let's talk about two different scenarios. If interest rates come down, values go up. They work hand in hand, right? Especially, I'm talking about the North Texas real estate area in particular. Because we have such a demand. There are so many people that have been forced to rent over the last few years that are dying to buy a house. So if you lower interest rates and all of a sudden the headlines start reading, it is a great time to buy a house because of interest rates, buyers are going to leave the rental market and they're going to enter into the pool of searching for homes. And all of a sudden we're going to be right back into a seller's market with multiple offers to where first-time home buyers in particular probably don't even have a shot at homes. I remember being a part of that market just a few years ago. I remember my clients sitting outside of a model home 6 hours before it opened so they would be in line for a lottery drawing. This is a true story. So they would be in line for a lottery drawing and hoping that their number was picked to get to go in there and put a down payment on their house to secure that house for their family. I remember that. And the truth is about that family in particular, they're still living in the same place they're living now because they didn't get picked that day. So I want you to kind of put all of those things into perspective. So let's flip the script. Let's say that rates go up. Man, go text me, message me. Let me send you a link for a mortgage calculator. And I want you to just take the interest rate from let's say 7% to 8%. And I want you to watch what it does to the payment. I want you to watch what it does to the payment because it is incredible how much interest rates, even just 1 point, affect your monthly mortgage payment. So let's say rates go up. Maybe values come down. There's so many real estate experts here in the North Texas area that would argue me, want to debate me on that, and I'm not here to do all that, right? Maybe values come down. If they do come down, I know they're not going to come down much. Again, we have too strong of a market. We have too many job opportunities, too many job openings here in the Dallas-Fort Worth, North Texas area in particular for values to come down. I think at this point, with the market's sustainability over the last few years, hopefully we prove that we're not in a bubble, right? We are in an incredible place. And if you talk to investors all across the world, DFW, North Texas in general, is still an amazing place to put your real estate. They still don't believe that we've caught up to California or New York or some of these places that they think we're on our way to becoming, which means that it's not going to get any cheaper. So I want to back that up because I don't say that to discourage you. I say that to say, don't wait. If you are thinking about getting into a house, don't wait, right? We have incredible client testimonies, just here recently even, that 6 months ago thought they would never be able to buy a house, that are now happily living in their new home. And I love stories like that because I think there's such a false message out there by the news. I want you to think about this about the news. Regardless if their information is accurate, true, and so forth, or even relevant, if you click on it because of a headline, they get paid. If you click on it because of a headline, they get paid. That's all they care about. So I want you to not believe everything that you see released by the news, whether that be on social media, the internet, the TV, etc. I want you to feel comfortable in calling the Rutherford team, calling your real estate experts to see what's really going on in the market. Because here's the truth. The truth is most people aren't paying a 7% interest rate. Most people, if they're buying a pre-existing home, they're buying the interest rate down. And if they're buying new construction, I've even seen builders offer as low as 4.9% interest rates for the entire life of the loan. For the entire life of the loan. Man, these are incredible opportunities that influence your payment more than you could ever imagine. And here's the other big myth that I often hear is that we don't have the down payment to be a house. Kevin, the monthly payment's no big deal. We're paying that in rent. We don't have the down payment that it requires to buy a house. That is another false narrative. Most people believe that you have to have 20% to buy a home, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Now, there is certain situations to where that is true, but the majority of the time, it is not. Especially if you're a first-time home buyer. We have FHA loans that are 3.5% down. We have USDA loans, which are $1,000 down. We have so many different scenarios. If you're a veteran listening to this, 0% down on a home. So the truth is you don't need as much as you would think. And so some of you even do math and you think, oh, 3.5% is still more than what we have. Most builders are offering incentives to say, hey, come buy this house and we're going to pay $12,000 towards your closing costs. And we're going to give you a 4.9% interest rate. That's happening. That's happening. We get emails about it every single day about the different new construction communities throughout the Metroplex. So if you're thinking about buying in 2024, I think this is going to be one of the best years to potentially buy a house. I really do. And I feel that way about both sides of the transaction because I feel if you have to do both, buy and sell a house, then it's always a good time, right? Let's say you win on the sell, you're going to lose on the buy or vice versa. So how do we go about the home buying process? Well, first and foremost, after you've listened to this podcast, I would love to answer any questions that you have. I would love to get together with you guys. We can set a meeting at the office or somewhere closer to you. We can make it happen. So the next step, of course, is going to be figuring out the finances. Now, that's not my job. We're not the lender. I'm not going to get to know your finances or anything of that nature. Everything stays completely confidential, and yet we need to know how much home can you afford? Are you comfortable with your down payment, with your monthly mortgage, et cetera, et cetera? So the very first thing we're going to do is get pre-approved, right? Once we get pre-approved and we know how much home that we're looking for, now we're going to begin the home search because we know what we're looking for. I'm telling you right now, I tell people not to do this all the time, and it never fails that about 50% of the people do it anyway. I say, hey, before you start looking at homes, go get pre-approved. Because what I don't want to happen is I don't want you to go look at a $600,000 house and then you only get pre-approved for a $400,000 house. Because let me tell you what happens. Once you've looked at a $600,000 house, the $400,000 houses are never going to cut it. Never, 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 never. So, be sure to trust the process here. So we'll go, once we know what you're approved for, we go out and we look for a home. Up next, we're going to go through showings of looking at different homes. Now, on average, people typically look somewhere between about 5 to 10 houses, depending on the market, to figure out what location do they want to be in. So there's a lot of homework to be done by you as the buyer, right? Only you can make the decision of where you want to live, Where do you want to plant your roots for your life? So you want to know where you're going to be going grocery shopping, where you're going to be going out to eat. What's the environment like at these places, right? These are all things to pay attention to. And then we'll start to look at homes in those areas. From there, we're going to find the perfect house. The perfect house, we're going to put an offer on said perfect house. Now, I want you guys to really pay attention to this part, because this is the part that even if you're kind of familiar with real estate talk and things of that nature, if you've never been through this process, or maybe it's been 20 years since you've been through this process, often people tend to forget this part. Once we have an offer that gets accepted by the seller, it does not mean you have to buy this house no matter what. That's another huge misconception that we often hear. At that point, it just means that you have the home in escrow. You have delivered as a buyer option fee. An option fee is anywhere from $100 to $1,000, depending on the price of the home. And the escrow is usually 1% of the home sitting at title. Okay? Now, during this option period, right, it's in an option period, it's anywhere from typically 3 to 7 days. That's about an average on an option period that you're going to have time to have the home inspected. Where do I get an inspector? Hey, no worries there. We have a list of recommended inspectors that we work with every single week. If you do not have your own, that is no problem at all, because we want to make sure that they're licensed by the state of Texas. Once we get the home inspected and we get that inspection report back, we focus on the bones. If you're in real estate, you hate that word so much, and that's why I love using it. We focus on the bones of the house. How is the foundation, the structure, the roof, and so forth? How are the main components? How's the hot water tank? How's the HVAC system, and so forth, right? They're things that could potentially add up to be extremely big costs. So once we verify that all of those things are good, we move out of the option period, we order an appraisal from the lender, and then we are on the next step to getting one step closer to the closing table. Now, let's backtrack really quick. Let's say that the inspection comes back terrible. Roof needs to be replaced. Sellers aren't going to cover it, et cetera, whatever the situation is. And you want to terminate. All you lose is that option period. That option fee. All you lose is that option fee. So let's say you put $100 down as that option fee, but you put $6,000 down as 1% of the sales price. You actually, as long as you terminate within that option period, you get that $6,000 back, and all you lose is that $100 option fee plus whatever it costs you to get the property inspected, which on average is somewhere between $400 to $500. Okay, let's go fast track back to everything went good on the inspection, and we've ordered the appraisal. Now we're just waiting for the appraisal to come in. What is the appraisal? That sounds like a foreign language to me, Kevin. An appraisal is some company that is hired by the lender, and it is random. They're not able to predict. They're not able to choose their own appraiser companies. It is chose by random for that appraiser to go out, view the subject property that you are buying, and determine if it is worth what your contract price is. Now, what if the price comes in lower? Let's say you're under contract, just for easy memory, at $600,000, and that sales price or that appraisal comes in at $575,000. At that point, we open negotiations, right? We have the right to either tell the sellers, hey, the price came in $25,000 lower than the sales price. That's what they're saying it's worth. We either have the right to leave, to exit the contract, or negotiate a new sales price with the sellers. Maybe they're going to say, okay, let's just go. We'll meet you at $575. We'll leave that $25,000 on the table. It's not typically how it works. Typically, they say, what if we split it with you? Right? And how I want to address one other thing really quick. How often do we see appraisals not meet value? Not very often. Okay. Typically, as a real estate professional, we have a very close idea of what the property is going to appraise for. And depending on market conditions, we're not going to spend more than that. Right? As representing you on the buy side, our goal is to get the property for as cheap as possible. So a couple of things to keep in mind there, that once the appraisal comes in, let's say it meets the sales price of $600,000, boom. Now we are on our way to a clear to close. Once we get a clear to close from the lender, the last step is closing day. That is everybody's favorite day. Bring your best signature, because you're going to sign your John Hancock about 300 times, it seems like. And then after that, you get the keys to your house. And let me tell you, there's no feeling like owning your own home. And as we begin doing client testimonies and things of that nature, that's the one thing in common that everybody continues to say, especially our first-time home buyers. This is what a surreal feeling it is to park in your own garage, to cook in your own kitchen. It's an incredible feeling, and that's everything that you need to know about the home buying process in 2024, kind of my market predictions and things of that nature. Again, there's so much to discuss about buying a house, so be sure if you have any questions or maybe something I said during this podcast wasn't very clear or you didn't understand it, there's no such thing as a stupid question, right? I always like to put myself out there as an example. If I was having a roof replaced on my house and something came up, I'm going to ask the roofer. I may not know what's going on, right? And so I could use that way in 1,000 different scenarios, right? When a doctor tells me something, I'm like, whoa. Can you put that in human terms, right? I have no idea what you're talking about. I understand that it's the same concept, right? And that this podcast in particular probably felt like a fire hydrant going off, and you're not going to catch all that water. Like if you're trying to get a drink from a fire hydrant, it's not possible. You're going to get a little bit, but you can't get all of it. So I understand that. I want you to feel comfortable and confident that you can text, call me, message the Rutherford Team Facebook page, and that we are here to hold your hand through the process. And that we want to be an asset to you and your family, and that this is step one to building wealth through real estate. And that's what I'll leave you with. The best day to buy a house was yesterday, much like planting a tree, and the second best day is today. So don't wait. Get in the game. Let's start building wealth through real estate for your family today. And thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast and for choosing the Rutherford Team for all of your real estate needs. If for some reason you do not have Facebook and you're not able to go look us up on there, my number is 214-878-5670. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Accelerate Through Life podcast. Please rate and review the show wherever you get your podcast. See you next time.